What is up, metal and heavy music fans? It's Flight of Icarus again with MetalTrenches.com, and today we're reviewing Tomahawk and their new album Tonic Immobility via Ipecac Recordings. And hey, if you like to be kept up to date with the best and brightest metal bands and albums from the underground and above, then stick with me by hitting that subscribe button down below. Tonic Immobility is the fifth album from the Mike Patton-fronted project alongside guitarist Duane Denison of the Jesus Lizard, helmet drummer John Stanier, and bassist Trevor Fieldmouse Dunn of the related Patton projects Mr. Bungle and Fantômas. Duane calls it a summary of much of their work so far, from the abrasive and dissonant to the slower tension-building grooves. As best as I can recall, my introduction to Tomahawk was actually hearing the song Captain Midnight during the credits of the Xbox 360 game The Darkness, a game that Patton also provided voice work for as the titular antagonist. And let me tell you, he is fantastic. If you have never played that game, his voice work on there is ridiculous.
Embrace the darkness.
In any case, this led me to picking up 2003's Gas and also backtracking to their excellent 2001 self-titled debut after stumbling across this clip of them performing God Hates a Coward. I saw that and my mind was fucking blown. Like, I already kind of knew who Mike Patton was. I was familiar with Faith No More, I'd listened to enough of their content, but I hadn't heard his more like weird experimental side as much at that point. And so seeing him with the gas mask on and the CB radio and just fucking weird, man. It just completely changed my idea of what a vocalist could really do. Those albums were followed by Anonymous in 2007 and then Oddfellows in 2013, which actually managed to reach number 9 on the Billboard Top Independent Albums chart and garnered very positive reviews. Regarding the title of this album, the band confirms that Tonic Immobility is very much a pandemic-related concept, a sort of feeling in the air right now of powerlessness and second-guessing. This idea is very much reflected in some of the lyrics, but Tomahawk are not ones to wallow in negativity or get overly political either. For all of this self-reflection, there's also plenty of rocking escapism to balance it out. The first time I really started picking up on those lyrical vibes was with the perfectly named Doomsday Fatigue. Boy, if there's ever been a perfect term for, I think, what we're all feeling right now, that's it. This slow, methodical track has all of the atmosphere of sitting in a filthy armchair in the same pajamas you wore yesterday, staring past your beer belly and television to the lockdown world outside. Croons Patton, I'll jerk off to the same thing, it's Doomsday Fatigue. It's the perfect trademark Patton line, crude but utterly poignant. The entire song is actually packed with great little parts like that, even referring to the COVID smile. Just little phrases like that conjure so much imagery for me. Just thinking about going through my day right now and kind of how weird it all is. Lead single Business Casual is another great example, Trevor providing a killer foundation of grungy alternative bass, which when paired with Patton's eerie falsettos and the minimalist touches of reverb-ridden guitar harmonics makes for an atmosphere that would have fit perfectly on the debut. The biting cynicism, this time delivered like a cross between slam poetry and straight-up hip-hop, with lines like, "They meet in 3 in the voodoo dome of empty calories, white glove delivery to a wet brain, and an elevated heart rate."
White glove delivery to a wet brain and an elevated heart rate.
As for the other pre-release track, Dog Eat Dog, I'm not really a big fan. It's a decent enough song, but that whole eat dog eat dog eat doesn't really do a whole lot for me, and it's kind of a lame way to end the album too, if you ask me. There's just so many other better options available too. For instance, we have the very upbeat opening track Shh, which lulls you in with a deceptively quiet guitar part that sounds more like the plucking of a violin before exploding into pure unfiltered rock and roll. But even better yet is the follow-up Valentine Shine, which very quickly climbed the ranks to my favorites from the band. This one is full of noisy guitars and an ever-rumbling Infectious bass groove once again. Some of the riffs even remind me a little bit of low-key the Dillinger Escape Plan. To be clear, not the like crazy parts, we're just talking about the dun dun dun, dun dun dun, like weird start-stoppy stuff that they like to do between the maniacal chaos. Same goes for Sidewinder, which also has some like mildly mathcore influenced vibes as well in its very title appropriate main hook. Again, to be clear, we're not talking full on irony is a dead scene.
I'm the best you'll ever have.
Fuck, man, that just makes me want more irony as a dead scene. Instead, it's more something that carries some vague reminders and would have even fit on the Last Daughters record. And of course, never content to keep things simple, this is offset by the ethereal Earth Angel strumming of guitars and backup woo. In a way, it kind of reminds me more of that cover of Easy they did, which is still one of my favorite Faith No More songs. Also more weird spoken word on this one too. Reminds me a bit of Henry Rollins in certain places. Another early standout was Predators and Scavengers with its full speed ahead opening and fun little traversals of the fretboard. It's an almost Ministry-esque bit of head bobbing, of course again with Mike's usual experimental twist on the vocals. More excellent bass on this one as well, and really throughout the album. Like I'm a Patton fanboy, it's clear, but I have to give credit to all of the other musicians on this album. Just doing a fantastic job. Getting back to the weird, Howley is an interesting one in its bizarre dynamics. 1 minute it feels like it's revisiting material from the debut again with its somewhat ominous atmosphere. The verses are built on this methodical drive of rim shots and shakers, alongside more poetic yet vaguely threatening vocal lines. Get off my land. But then the choruses are a full-on metal eruption akin to Angel Dust's Jizzlobber. Similarly, Recoil chooses to pair yet more of the most aggressive sounding portions of the album with a chill reggae vibe for the verses. I find this combination to be a bit more of a clash, but if nothing else, it is interesting to hear. And Eureka is perhaps the biggest departure from the other material, taking a full-on experimental approach with no real semblance of structure. Just more insidious ambience and haunting wispy vocals. Ultimately, I went into this album like I do with every Tomahawk album, with zero expectations. Each one is always a bit different from the last, sometimes very different, and when it comes to Patton in general, to use an old but relevant cliche, you learn to expect the unexpected. As for the result, I very much enjoyed this album. The music is mostly very well composed, predictably with great performances from talented musicians who have played in many of my favorite rock groups of the past, but also unpredictably in terms of knowing where each song is ultimately going to go. And frankly, like most Patton projects, this album only gets more interesting each time I sit down and peel back further layers of both the musicianship and at times amusingly head-scratching lyrical content. Turning to my scales, I give Tonic Immobility a 9 for enjoyability. Definitely a grower of an album that, while imperfect, may down the road prove to be even more. I give it a 9 for musicianship. The chemistry between these guys is unquestionable. The way they work together feels so effortless, yet the resulting compositions are highly diverse and often complex, even if they aren't getting flashingly technical. And I give it an 8 for innovation. Definitely one of the more unique and unusual albums you're likely to hear in 2021. Not the wildest thing Patton has ever done by any stretch, but an outlier nonetheless. So an 8.7 and a B+ for Tomahawk and Tonic Immobility. Get it once more via Ipecac Recordings. Y'all, thanks as always for watching, and let me know down in the comments, what did you think of this album? What is your favorite Mike Patton project? I actually have a very old video ranking my favorite Mike Patton albums across all of his different projects. I kind of want to redo it sometime in the future because there's some projects that I still need to dig into more, but regardless, you should check that out. And just in general, stick around. I got plenty more videos coming up right after this one, more reviews, interviews with bands on the podcast, you name it, we've got it. So plenty of reasons to subscribe if you have not already. You can also chat with us on Discord and support on Patreon. But that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.